Okay guys, so the next thing I'm going to show you how to do is how to sew your details onto the face of your character keyring. So what you need to do is you've got your two pieces of felt for your pair and you need to pick which one is going to be the front. So I'm going to pick this one to be the front and I need to separate them so I don't accidentally sew through the two sheets at the same time. Now what I'm going to need for this is a black pen, the different colored thread that I'm going to need, and I'm also going to need my needle, okay? So the first step that we do is using the black pen and using broken lines, we are going to mark the face features onto our piece of felt. Now, the reason that we do it with broken lines and pretty much just dots really, is because it's really, really hard to cover up a pen or these kinds of marks on felt with thread if you do it in solid line. So that's why we do it in broken lines like this. So I'll show you a close up. It looks like this. Whoop, whoop, there we go. And the reason, yeah, is just it's a lot easier to cover with the actual thread. So the first thing we're gonna do is I think we'll do the eyes and the mouth. Now in the drawing, it's done in black, but I think it might be cuter on the felt to actually do it in white. So I'm gonna get some white thread and I'm going to cut a bit off. And the different stitches that I'm going to use a back stitch for the mouth and then just a single running stitch for the eyes. Okay, so I'm going to do them really small. So I'm just threading my needle. And so I'm going to start with the mouth and I'm just going to do a back stitch. All right, so now I've got my mouth sewn on. What I'm gonna do is do a single stitch in the eyes to make those. So it'll be a single running stitch. And I'm just gonna try and do this as small as possible. And I can always go back and add in an extra stitch later. So I've got one stitch there. And another one there. So I think we might need a slightly bigger stitch. So I'm just going to do another one next to it. Like this. And just build that up. Awesome. Like so. So we've got our eyes there. Now if I wanted to add an extra detail, I could do a single black stitch there as the eyeballs, and I might add that in at a later stage. What do you guys think? Yeah, I should do that? All right, I'll do it now. Okay, so as you can see, I've added in the little black stitch near the eyes now, so it gives that impression that my cute little pair is looking over that way. And I'm going to add in now, I'm going to satin stitch these cheeks. So the way I'm going to do that is I am going to start in one area, probably in the middle for this one, and I'm just going to do a single line from the top to the bottom. Whoops. And I'm going to keep following that around on one side. And then I'm going to repeat that on the other side. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that, so I'm now going to do the same thing on the other side as well. Awesome, so now I've got both of my little cheeks done, my smiley face and my 2 eyes. And I'm gonna finish the stitch on the back either with a knot or an anchor stitch. Now, the way I do my knots, and see how on the back it sometimes looks like a bit messy like this? That's okay, because that's gonna be on the inside of our character keyring and we won't even see it. So the way that I do my knots is I actually create a knot and then I put my needle as close to the thread as possible and I just pull on it like this. And we'll also be showing you guys how to do anchor stitches, which is another more neat way of finishing your stitch as well. So now that I have the face of my pear done, what I need to do is I need to sew the little stem onto the top here. Now, because this is such a small piece and looking at it again, it actually will probably be too small to put stuffing in. So what I've done is I've just pinned this piece to the back and we're only going to sew on one of the brown pieces. And then when we do our stitch around the outside, we're going to incorporate it in. So this will just be a little single brown piece of felt that will be sticking out rather than part of the actual stuffed item. So to attach this, what I'm going to do is a really small back stitch across here before I secure the front and the back together. All right, so what we need to do next is we need to combine our front with our back, and to do that I'm going to use a blanket stitch. So first up, what I need to do is turn this over and make sure that it matches up. It does, awesome. And now I'm just going to put 2 different pins in to hold the pieces together. Okay, so like that. And now when I do this, I'm going to start from this side here and I'm going to do a blanket stitch all around to about here, and I'm going to leave an opening so I can stuff it with felt. So I'm going to do that now. Okay, so I've now finished doing my blanket stitch, and as you can see, I've left a gap just here that I can put my stuffing in. So I can take my pins out now and put them away safely. And the next step is to add the stuffing, the most fun part of the whole thing, some would think. But what I need to make sure I do is keep my thread attached here, because once I put my stuffing in, I'm going to finish this stitch, okay? So I'm going to start by just getting a small amount of stuffing. And you can always try and put in, like you always fit in more than you actually think you're going to. So I usually use my finger, or if it's a really small shape, you can also use a pen. So for example, you could get your pen and it just helps to stuff that in like that and push it down really, really tight. So you can already see that all of that stuffing's gone in and I still have heaps of room to put more in. So you just break off a little bit more and you keep putting it in. All right, so now that I've got that in, it's starting to feel quite tight. I'm going to hold these bits together. So you can either do it with your hand, or sometimes it can be really helpful to use a pin. So I can just put a pin in here to make sure that those pieces hold together while I continue doing my blanket stitch around the outside. And now once I've got my character like this stuffed, I'm just going to move the stuffing around in it, just even it out until I get my character like this. And now I'm going to finish my stitch with either an anchor stitch or a knot, and my character will be done. All right, and once I finish that stitch, my character is done and it's ready for me to attach my keyring to it, and that's something that we will show you how to do in class. So this is your character keyring.